Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have it douse, not what I'm about, have your f***ing cloud. It be raining now, I keep making sound, go another round, I'm legend bound, can't stop me now.
You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can.
All right, everybody, how's it going? I hope everybody's having a good evening. This fine Thursday evening it is. Wow, what a time to be alive, man. Lots of things are going on in the world of sports. Lots and lots of things. As you can see, it's your boy Jay McLovin. I got by myself again. I don't know what's going on with my fellas. Everybody's got internet problems. Everybody's got oversleeping issues. I don't know. It doesn't matter because you know why? We're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time. We're going to talk some sports. And I hope you guys will enjoy hanging out with me this evening. First thing we'll start off with is this head coaching job that's open in Houston. Now, who's going to want to go coach in Houston? Let me see. You fire Dan Culley after 1 year. You fire Lovie Smith after 1 year. You got the scale that went on with Deshaun Watson and how you handled that. So your franchise is basically in murky waters. There's not really a whole lot of sense of direction. And at this point in time, it looks like you do have good draft stock. I think you slipped down to number 2 drafting. So you will come in with at least, you should be able to get your quarterback in the future in either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, right? So then you got to look at where do we go next? If you're a Houston franchise, how much cap space do you have? They got a couple of good free agents in Pierce, that young rookie running back, and they do have Brandon Cooks, that nice wide receiver that they have. But outside of that, they're a slate that needs to be developed. You got work to do on defense. You got work to do on the offensive line, and you still got to find, like I said, your quarterback of the future. Now, you could go out and get David Carr. I'm down with that. You want to go get David Carr, plug David Carr into this system? Hey, that's straight. Oh, Mike Hughes. All right, man. I'm going to send you the link, man, because I'm out here going solo dolo, and you know Jason Solo Dolo never turns out well. It never does. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to send this fine young scholar the link to the show, and we're going to do a 2-tandem, me and Mike Hughes. As soon as I get fair, anybody know how to operate an iPhone? I might need help with that. No, I'm kidding. I'm good. Let me see here. Now, I hit this button. Mike Hughes. I got you, Mike. Hold on now. Since I figure this shit out. Pardon my French. It's the only other language I know. And I majored in that, by the way. Tony, I don't know where your son's at. He was supposed to be here chilling with me. Hey, Mike, I sent it to Mike Montez. No, Mike Hughes. Let me send it to Mike Hughes. All right, Mike, you got the link, brother. It is now done. Brandon Cooks wants out. Of course he wants out, Tony. Who wouldn't want out? Let's be honest. Would you want to stay with Houston the way that Houston is going right now? I'd want out. I definitely want out. Mike comes back, says, Solo Dolo J in the house. Yeah. Hey, listen, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. But no, I think there's a couple of coaches I think out there that would do well. I think Jim Caldwell is still one of those guys. I think I still been on the Flores train. I swear I've been on the Flores train since he left Miami. I think Flores will be a good one. I think Jim Harbaugh would be a good one, but I don't think Jim's going to come out of retirement just to hang out with the lowly Houston Texans when he's got a good thing going on in Michigan. Mikey Delaney, my boy Mickey, man, out there in the Seattle area, getting his little groove on with the Seahawks in the playoffs. Mickey, you got your work cut out for you, baby. You got your work cut out for you. But Let's get into the show, folks. Let me pull my thing up. Let me get this rolling. Here we go. Jack Daniels never tasted so good. Oh, I love a good cold Jack. But yeah, Caldwell, like I said, you got Flores, you got who else was out there that would be good? Jim Harbaugh when those out there. And then you can look at offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. D'Amico Ryans, I know his name has been thrown out there quite a bit. The coordinator out there in San Francisco. Bieniemy, I don't know why, but Bieniemy's been out there for a hot minute. Is it his time to get his chance? Bieniemy's been sitting underneath the likes in Kansas City for a hot minute now. And I don't think the big tomato out there is going to get him promoted or going to step down anytime soon. So with him staying in power, I think Bieniemy has to start looking elsewhere for that head coaching job. And I don't know if some people he's interviewing well. Some people say he's not interviewing well. Some people say that he's not a player's coach, that a lot of players don't like to play for him. I don't really get that. Patrick Mahomes, I know he had a couple of issues with Patrick Mahomes. And I don't know if that's stirred up all the controversy around Bieniemy. But Mickey Delaney says, how come all your boys left you holding the bag? You know what, Mickey? I hold the bag quite often. I do. And it's okay. I hold the bag pretty good, I think. But no, seriously, folks, I think Houston's going to have a lot. They got a lot to do, right? I think that the GM manager has to do a good job finding the next replacement. He can't just keep hiring these one-year guys. And again, I was never behind the Lovie Smith hiring in the first place. I thought Lovie, I thought his time had kind of passed him. But for some reason, they wanted to hire him over Flores and a few other guys they brought in. And I didn't really understand that. I think Jim Caldwell would be perfect in this system. I like what he did with Detroit. I liked what he did at Indianapolis. And let's be honest, Houston needs a clear direction. And I think that Harbaugh would be a good spot for him to land. And I think it'd be good for Harbaugh as well. Not Harbaugh, excuse me, Caldwell. I'm saying Harbaugh. I'm really talking about Jim Caldwell. Tony Gonzalez says Houston needs to get a coach and give them at least. Yeah, I mean, you figure 3 years max, right? You give him 3 years. You give him the first year to learn his system, for the team to learn his system, for the team to get acclimated to him, for him to put his philosophy on the team. And then that takes a second year to really know where your weaknesses are on the team, that you can address those weaknesses either via free agency or through the draft. And then once you have that step down, year 3, you should be locked and loaded, ready to go. You should have your free agents in place. You should have your draft order in place. You should have, your training staff up to speed. Your quarterback should be up to speed. And by year 3, you should be doing something, especially if you drafted your quarterback year 1. And the only guy that he knew was his college coach and his current pro team head coach, whatever team he may be going to. So, yeah, man, I give him 3 years. Caldwell, Tony, I think Caldwell knows the system. He knows how to build a team from the ground up, right? I mean, he took a crappy Detroit team and did something. He took Indianapolis and did something. I mean, he needs to come to Houston. Houston has never really had that coach. What did Houston really have? Bill O'Brien? Okay. Who else they have? Romeo Crennel? Okay. And then they had Gary Kubiak? Okay. And then they had that first guy that nobody ever can remember the damn name of. So, yeah, in my opinion, they've never had a good head coach. And I think that's the problem. I really do. Listen, I don't know enough about football in terms of offensive play scheming and things like that. That's a whole nother world. I can just comment on what I see in the field. But, yeah, I do think that they need to bring in a Caldwell or somebody that has some experience in building franchises, not just a head coach that just came off of being an offensive coordinator. They got to bring in a legitimate guy that knows how to take a team from nothing and then put them into something within 3 to 4 years. And I think Caldwell would be that guy. He says, Tony goes on to say something about Houston Houston was in a lot of games this year and fairly. They were competitive. That's why I don't think they're. I don't think they're far off, but I do think they need to start with. I think they need to start with the quarterback position. They need to work a little bit on that offensive line, and then they need to work on their edge rushing so they can get pressure on the quarterback. I think if they can address those three areas, the rest of it will take care of itself, right? But I don't know. We shall see, man. We shall see. Next, I wanted to talk about a little bit was University of Georgia and Alabama are leading the 2023 rankings. Wow. It's interesting to me when I look at the rankings. Number 1 is Georgia, which I'm good with that. Then they got number 2, Alabama. How the hell is I mean, look, okay, I get the political answers. All right, I get the money, I get Nick Saban, I get all the little intricacies of why they're putting Alabama in the top 4. But at number 2, for crying out loud, don't you think they should have to work or do something to be put into? I'm sick and tired. Alabama was number 1 2 years ago. They were number 1 last year. Now you got them number 2 this year. And yet they haven't won jack crap in the last 3 years. I think Alabama just gets way too much love. And a lot of other teams don't get that same kind of love. Again, Georgia's number 1. Bama's number 2. Number 3 is Michigan. Number 4 is Ohio. Huh. Wow. Never saw that coming. So you're telling me you take out TCU, which was in the national title game, and you replace it with Bama that lost, 3 games last season? And then you got Michigan that got beat by TCU in there. Again, I do understand that TCU did lose Max Duggan. They did lose Miller and I believe one other star player. But still, to drop them all the way down to, let's see, where do they got TCU in there? At number 8. They put TCU in at number 8. So you're telling me, Tennessee comes in at number 5. LSU comes in at 6. USC comes in at 7. TCU comes in at 8. Penn State is at 9. Washington's at 10. And if I skip down a little bit, at number 14 is Clemson. Number 20 is Texas. Texas A&M is 21. And then North Carolina rounds out number 22. But you can't tell me for 1 minute. I'm okay with Georgia. I'm okay with Michigan. I'm okay with Ohio. And Tennessee at number 5, okay. But I'm not okay with Bama being number 2. I'm not okay with TCU being at number 8 behind LSU, USC, and Tennessee. I mean, look, Tennessee lost Hendon Hooker. So who are they going to put him in there with? We saw what happened after Hendon Hooker left, and they put the next man up. I don't think they did too well, did they? I don't know. It's just me talking. But I got some issues with that rankings. Does anybody have an issue with those rankings? Tony said, Tony goes on to say the guys did play hard for Lovey. I think Lovey still has that good connection with the players that they're going to work hard for him. I just don't know if his decision-making or his play calling or the people he puts in charge underneath him are up to speed with what the rest of the NFL is at. Because I'm telling you, the rest of the NFL, the coaching staffs are amazing. Their teams are playing. So I just don't buy in. I think the game itself has changed since Lovey last did something great over there in Chicago. So, and it is what it is. Damien, hey, what's up, Damien? He comes in and says, money talks, Jay. Money talks, especially in sports and in college, unfortunately. You're right. Money does talk. I think we all understand that, right? Money does talk. And again, I think that's what affects a lot of these rankings. That's why I don't think Alabama should be at number 2 when they haven't put up number 1 or top 4 numbers the last 2 years consecutively. But in other words, so I can go back to back. I could go down to number 8 in the rankings and then come back the next year at number 2. Wow. I'm sorry. I lose a little bit of faith in the coaching system when we're operating on that level. I just do. I don't like it. I don't like what's going on with it. But hey, I'm not going to sit here and gripe all night about it. But I do disagree with the rankings, at least in a couple of spots. And then, of course, number 3. Oh, and by the way, Oklahoma and Texas do become, I believe, part of the SEC next year. Oh. And Archie Manning will be part of Texas. So I give Texas 2 years, and I think we start talking more Texas football, especially when Archie takes over. I think they're recruiting. I think the classes are going to want to play with him are going to be phenomenal. So I'm looking for big things within the next 2 years coming out of University of Texas. But we will see. We'll see what time says. Losing Correa. Let's talk Carlos Correa for a minute. Wow. God, oh, Carlos Correa, man. Jeez. So, okay. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you think losing Carlos Correa from the Mets was a big deal? Like, how big of a deal do you really think that was for the Mets? Obviously, it was a big deal for the Giants. The Giants trying to get people to come in. He couldn't pass a physical, so the Giants had to let him go. Same thing with New York. Couldn't pass a physical. He didn't like what they were offering him. So then here comes Minnesota out of nowhere, offering him I think it's like 5 or 6 years, a little over $200 million, or right at $200 million. Fits perfectly into his bag. And again, I can only imagine how that conversation went at the end of last season. So Correa's in the office. Yo, coach, I got to be honest with you. I probably ain't going to be back next season. I'm going to free agency. Probably going to be out. Love you. It's been real. But deuces, only to come back several months later, probably going to that same coach's office and say, yo, coach. So apparently my leg's all jacked up. Ain't nobody going to take me. So if you still got that roster spot open, I'll gladly slide my way back into it. And we can pretend none of this ever happened. That Mets never happened. The Giants never happened. Meanwhile, Houston is chilling in the wings saying, yep, man, moving that Jeremy Pena up was a damn good idea, because look at Carlos now out there running around trying to get his big bag of cash, all the while still sticking with the sorry piece of crap Minnesota Twins. What a time to be alive. Thank you, Carlos, from the city of Houston. Thank you. God, what a time to be alive. Now let's look at the Mets for a minute. So the Mets miss out on Carlos Correa, but was it really a big deal for them? Think about this. Yeah, I get this year they don't get Carlos Correa. But I know one thing I know about Steve Cohen, that dude ain't shying away from paying the money. All right, Steve Cohen ain't shying away from paying the money. He's going to pay up as much money as he can to get every last Dick and Harry out there that is considered elite or has a big-time name. He's going to bring them all into the fold. So what does that mean, folks? Well, let's see. Who is up for free agency next year? Oh, yeah, Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani's up next year. He'll be a free agent next year. God, I wonder where he winds up. I wonder where Ohtani winds up next year. My money, and I'm not on a betting show, but if I was on Gonzo's betting show, I would bet any amount of money that Shohei Ohtani is going to be a member of the New York Mets. God, could you imagine that rotation? You got Scherzer, Verlander, Ohtani, and then the guy who nobody cares about after Ohtani. I'm sure it's somebody great, whatever. Nobody's going to care. But those three pitches alone, and then you got to imagine what they thought they were missing out on Carlos Correa on the hitting end. They're actually making up for it, if not even going vastly beyond with Shohei Ohtani. So Ohtani gives you better hitting, better pitching. Yeah, you're going to have to pay for that, but you were going to give Carlos Correa $315 million over 10. So trust me, you're not going to miss the bag too bad. But you're already paying a luxury tax anyway. I look at it like this. When your luxury tax is $111 million, do you really give a damn if you got to pay an extra $10 million a year for Shohei Ohtani versus Correa? I don't think you're going to care. You're already well over the luxury tax. I say if you're going to go big, go all the way big. And I think that's exactly what Steve Cohen is doing. Steve Cohen is going big. And that's what we're seeing. So New York Mets, if you don't get it this year, God, you don't get it. Could you imagine a world where you're spending $807 million on about 3 or 4 players, and then you're $111 million over the tax, and then you got like a payroll of like almost $400 million this year alone. Oh, and by the way, your team average age is 30, and most of your deals are 1 to 2 year deals. Could you imagine A world where the next 2 years that the Mets are trying to get the big bag, the Mets are trying to get the World Series. What if they came up with nothing? What if they reached down in their pockets, they give their best effort, they spent all this money, and they come away with bupkis? Now, what kind of world would that be? I'll tell you what kind of world it'd be. It'd be amazing. It would be amazing. Because the Astros are only paying $174 million for their payroll. And they're not paying a luxury tax. But they got the bling bling, baby. They got the bling bling. God, I love America. It's the only place where I can spend absorbent amounts of money and still walk away with nothing. God, what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. All right, folks, let's get into some NFL news. Oh, wait, hold on. Tony, I think I missed your comment. Let me put the comment of Tony up there real quick. Tony says, I get what you're always saying, but TCU comes from out of nowhere last year, so I kind of understand that. You know what? I understand the fact that they came out of nowhere. What I don't understand is how you're putting Bama back at number 2 when for the last 2 years, Bama hasn't been around. And what has USC done? What has LSU done? Honestly. That's better than what TCU's done. I mean, I get it. If you want to keep Michigan, Ohio, and Georgia as 3 out of the 4, I'm okay with that. It's that 4th position that I have an issue with. Because if you're going to put Bama in the top 4, at least put them number 4 for crying out loud. Don't just give them number 2 because you think they have all the clout. Give them what they really deserve, and what they deserve is number 4. What a time to be alive. But I get what you're saying, though, too, Tony. TCU did come out of nowhere, but at the same time, they may come out of nowhere, but they made it to the national title after being unranked. And for the love of God, we're not going to give them a better ranking than 8. Okay, if you want to put them in there, I say put them in there at 6. Put it behind Tennessee. I really don't think Tennessee should be at number 5. But I think TCU should be either 5 or 6. If that's the way we're going, TCU at least should be 5 or 6. All right. I'm off my soapbox. Let's talk about some games, man. Let's talk about some NFL that's about to happen. Let's see. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday, so we'll get a day off on Friday. But come Saturday, baby, come Saturday, it's no bullshit. It's time to get down and nasty and get this playoffs underway. Tony says, I agree with Alabama at 4. You know, again, I don't even agree with Alabama at 4, but I understand that they're going to put Alabama in the top 4. I get that. So I'm willing to concede and say at least if you're going to put him in the top 4, put him at number 4. Tony, I agree. Anywho, first game up for bids. Mickey Delaney. I hope you're still listening. I hope you haven't tuned out or gone to bed or whatever else it is you do with your free time, Mickey. But we're talking 49ers and Seahawks. And I know you're a Seahawks guy. I know you're a Seahawks. Geno versus Purdy. Mr. Irrelevant versus the guy they drafted close to number 1, went into a coma, went around the world and did nothing, comes back, links up with Pete Carroll and Seattle, and then after a couple of years as being the understudy to Russell Wilson, finally gets the call up, and now he's back into it. So you got that guy versus Purdy. I'll tell you this, though. I do like Purdy. For being Mr. Irrelevant, he certainly has proved himself to be quite relevant. And I do like Purdy. I like this 3-headed monster attack of Debo, McCaffrey, and Mitchell. And then you still got Ayuk and you got Kittles as your other weapons outside of that core 4. God. I mean, could you imagine the offense that you could call with a team like that? They wouldn't know if you're running it. They wouldn't know if you're throwing it because damn near everybody on your team can run or throw and has done something of the nature throughout the season. So you have no idea what to expect from Debo. He's going to receive it, run it, reverse it. I'd probably even do I would probably do a fake reverse to Debo and give the ball to freaking McCaffrey, or throw the ball out to the flat with McCaffrey and see how many yards you get on that, because you know they're going to be tracking Debo like a heat-seeking missile. God. Man, I'll tell you, I hate the 49ers because I'm a Cowboys fan. Everybody knows I'm a Cowboys fan, so they know that I've got a huge disdain for the San Francisco 49ers. Don't ask me to spell the word disdain because I only got a second grade education, so calm down. But I will say this. The 49ers, you're going to have Walker versus McCaffrey, Mitchell, and Debo. I like Walker. I don't know how you guys feel about Walker the third, but I like him as a running back for Seattle. I think Walker is a phenomenal addition to Lockett, Metcalf, and company. And now that he's back, he was hurt for a little bit, but now he's back. He had a really good game last week under his belt going into the playoffs. And I tell you, man, I can see Seattle pulling off the upset against the 49ers. I know a lot of people are going to look at me sideways because a lot of people have the 49ers in the Super Bowl or predicted to go to the Super Bowl. I like the 49ers. I think they probably got the best chance to go to the Super Bowl. But it doesn't mean that every team can't be upset. It doesn't mean that the Philadelphia Eagles can't be upset. That's another team. You got the Eagles, for crying out loud, man. They're playing like lightning hot football, but we did not get a full round of Jalen Hurts enough that satisfies me going into the playoffs. But I don't know if you need to have a full complement of Jalen Hurts. I think Garner Minshew has done a hell of a good job, and plus they get a bye week. So you got a bye week until they play. So maybe that will give them enough time to get Jalen Hurts back out on the field and doing what Jalen Hurts does. But if he doesn't, do you play him? I don't play a Hurts that's not 100%, or at least 90. I would say the minimum of 90. Hurts better be at least 90%. And the reason why I say that is when you got Garner Minshew, and I've seen Garner Minshew play up against Cowboys, and he put points on the board. Garner Minshew did his job. He barely turned it over, and he put points on the board, and he pushed Dallas all the way to the edge to where Dallas got the win on a last-minute possession. So can Garner do the job? Can Garner get Philadelphia where Philadelphia needs to go? Hell yeah. And how interesting would it be that the last Super Bowl the Eagles won was by a backup quarterback? Wasn't even Wentz. Wentz was supposedly the starter, but you know how often he gets hurt. So Nick Foles comes in and gets the Super Bowl win for the Eagles. How fitting would it be if Hurts and Deja Vu and the likes of Garner Minshew collide? And Garner Minshew goes on to get the Super Bowl trophy for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, if I'm the Eagles, I really don't care who gets the damn or gets the Super Bowl ring. Just get the Super Bowl ring. I just think it's ironic that if it happens that way, that your backups that were heavily favored turned out to be the backups on the IR, and your backup quarterback wound up getting you the Super Bowl, not once, but twice. God. If there was ever a world, if the Cowboys don't get the Super Bowl, then I'm going to go. I would like to see the Eagles get it. I just want somebody in the NFC East to get it. But I like the storyline. And there's a lot of good storylines, by the way, in the NFL this year. But I like the storyline, though, of the Eagles. And if it was Garner Minshew was to win it, I love that storyline. I think it's an amazing storyline. And then, of course, then you got to answer, well, what does that mean for Hurts come next year? Hurts will still be the starting quarterback. That's not going to change. But the narrative for him probably will slightly change a little bit. Like, yeah, you got a Super Bowl ring, but you didn't earn it. Whatever that means. I think you earned it in the regular season, but whatever that means. But you'll have people out there that will say that. But, yeah, and then you got – I think Purdy's another great example of just a great storyline. Mr. Irrelevant to Super Bowl quarterback. Could you imagine that? I mean, that would be insane. Not to mention his payday. His payday would be insane. Now, if he gets a Super Bowl, gets a win at the Super Bowl, I think at that time I start looking at Garoppolo and I look at Trey Lance and I figure, okay, man, which one can I do without the most? And if I think it's Trey Lance, then and I got Garoppolo as my backup and I don't have to use Garoppolo but at certain occasions, I think I let go of Trey Lance and I think I put Trey Lance on the block for draft picks, see what I can get out of him because he's got a bigger upside than Garoppolo does. I think I try to trade Trey Lance, get draft picks, go back to the draft this year or next year. Oh, I guess it'd be next year, right? It would still be this year, but be after the Super Bowl. I think after the Super Bowl, if you win it with Purdy, I think I'm looking to trade Trey Lance and see what I can get to improve upon the Super Bowl or to improve upon the draft. We will see. Chargers, Jaguars. Oh, my God. We talked to Deontay earlier today. Deontay is a Chargers fan, and I told him I felt like Trevor Lawrence and this Jaguars team, they don't know any better. As far as they're concerned, they deserve to win the Super Bowl. That's what they're thinking. I guarantee it's what Peterson is putting in their minds. And let's be honest, they've had a hell of a good season, and they played spoiler to a lot of teams. So I could see Jacksonville going into San Diego, pulling off the win, or I guess it's LA now, going into the Chargers territory, pulling off that win and advancing. And if they do advance, what does that then mean for Herbert? And what does it mean for Staley? Because Trevor Lawrence has been in the league 2 years. And if he beats Herbert, who's been in the league, 3 or 4 years? It's not looking good for Herbert, and it's certainly not looking good for Coach Staley. I think I think Deontay will be with me that you let go of Coach Staley. You try to find your next head coach that can get you there, because I don't think Herbert's the cause. I think Herbert is just the byproduct of bad play calling. I think that whole damn team is on the back of play calling. So they have a lot of weapons. The only thing that hurts the Chargers more than play calling is injuries. God, that team cannot stay healthy to save your life. Eckler's been on the injury report. Williams has been on the injury report. Keenan Allen's been on the injury report. I thought Justin was going to go on the injury report when he got that shot to the ribs, but apparently that's not the case. Apparently Herbert is going to keep on steamrolling, and that tells you a lot about Herbert and what kind of player he is. But, yeah, I definitely got the Jaguars taking it over the Chargers. Then we look at the Ravens and Bengals. We already know. Let's put it out there. Lamar Jackson is not playing. So you're going to get a whole lot of Tyler Huntley. Oh, bring on Tyler Huntley. Because you're about to see a whole lot of him. Rob Scott, injuries has killed yeah, absolutely injuries have killed the Chargers. But, again, I think you'll agree with me that Staley has not done them any favors either. So you got a lot of injuries, but you got a lot of bad play calling coming out of Staley. Bengals, yeah, you know what? I said that earlier this morning. I said I feel like the Bengals. Well, my prediction was I had the I had the 49ers versus the Bengals. I think that was the same prediction that Gonzo had as well. He had the 49ers and Bengals in there as well. So that was my prediction. Now, who wins? I don't know, man. That's going to be anybody's game. But I'll tell you one thing. That's going to be a hell of a showdown. When you got the three-headed monster versus Smoking Joe, is a three-headed monster going to be enough to stop Smoking Joe? Golly. I don't know, man. I don't think so. Rob Scott says Lamar shouldn't play. Pay that man. I don't know, though. Do you pay him? Look, they said his knee is unstable. Hey, I love you too. Hey, Big Rob, I love you too. And hey, if you got a little cognac or a little Jim Beam or Jack Daniels, let's just go ahead and do a toast. Let's do a toast to the high life. God. I love Rob Scott. What a good man he is. I sent you the link. You can come on this show if you have time. I know you're a busy man. I know you got a lot of things going on, but I did put the link in the chat if you want to hop on and conversate with OJ for a hot minute. But yeah, let's go back to that. Let's go back to that Lamar. Lamar Jackson's not playing. What does that mean for the Ravens? I mean, honestly, what does it mean for the Ravens? Can Huntley do enough to get past the Bengals? Hell no. Hell no. Now, I say that every time a team takes it lightly. Like I tell you what, the worst thing that can happen to the Bengals is they're saying to themselves, okay, we don't get Lamar Jackson. We get Tyler Huntley. Yeah, I think we can do that. We can do that. We got this. We got this in the books. I ain't worried about it. As long as Lamar Jackson ain't playing, I ain't worried about it. Hey, let's go play some golf. You want to go play some golf real quick? We got what, 2 days, a day and a half before we play? Let's go play some golf. Let's get some long necks and let's have a party. God, just saying. It could happen. It could happen. I don't even know what that emoji is. What the hell kind of emoji? I can't see that far. Anybody know what kind of emoji that looks like? Is that I don't know what kind of emoji. Okay, we're going to leave that one alone because that looks kind of weird. He said Damian Hernandez says Chargers Chargers win or lose no matter the injuries. How bad is Staley as the head coach? He will still He still will have that job because he got them to the playoffs. You think just because Staley gets them to the playoffs, that allows him to keep his job? I don't. Does anybody agree with that? That just because you got to the playoffs means you should keep your job? I mean, look, if you got a team that has the star power that the Chargers have had, you got in Khalil Mack, for crying out loud. You brought in J.C. Jackson. I know Jackson got hurt. Hey, it is what it is. But they put a lot of money in this Chargers franchise. And I don't think a first-round wild card exit is going to necessarily secure Staley's job. And if it does, he better just thank his sweet, joyous stars. God, what a time to be alive. What a time. I hope, hey, for his sake, then I hope the Chargers do win. Otherwise, that man's looking for another job. But no, seriously, back to this Ravens and Bengals. I think the Bengals have an easy trip. I think the Bengals get an easy trip back to the divisional round. I don't expect the Ravens to really be much. J.K. Dobbins might have an okay day, but really there's not a Mark Andrews will probably have a good day. Andrews will always get his. So from a tight end perspective and a running back perspective, and even a defensive perspective, Baltimore does look good. But that guy at the helm, Tyler Huntley, I'm not 100% sold on him. And if I'm not 100% sold on him going up against Smoking Joe and company, Jamar Chase, Mixon, I mean, all those guys, nah, you can keep it. I think the Bengals will have an easy round to the divisional round. Let's go look at the next game. We got Dolphins versus the Bills. How interesting. Tua's not playing either. You know who is playing? A guy who has a name like Skylar Thompson. Just say that name for a minute. Skylar Thompson. I mean, even his name doesn't sound like it would be Super Bowl worthy. Skylar Thompson in the Super Bowl. That will never happen. He goes on to say Staley is going to have his job secured because he made the playoffs. He will live to fight another day. Again, Rob, if they do that, I mean, could I see them doing it, Rob? Sure. Do I think they should do that? Hell no. Hell no. Hey, Sean Payton, I know you're looking for a job. Look what I got cooking over here in L.A. I done got you a quarterback. I done got you a running back. I done got you some wide receivers, a decent O-line, a pretty good defense. All we need is the right guy at the helm. You want to take this job? And then you can give a few draft tweaks or maybe a few free agent tweaks in there and get us ramped up and ready to roll. I don't know. I think they have to take a shot. If nothing else, I think they take a shot at bringing in Staley. But if you are bringing in Sean Payton, but if you do that and you don't land Sean Payton, then you're probably going to have to go back to a disgruntled Staley. I don't know how bad it changes everything because you can't win now. What's the disgruntled Staley going to do for you? Get you a win? Okay, I'll take that. He said, Jay, when was the last time the Chargers made the playoffs? Trust me, he's still playing. I get that too. I understand what you're saying. I do. I think the last time they made the playoffs was probably when LaDainian Tomlinson was playing for them. And then Rob Scott goes on to say, Tua is probably going to retire. I think he should retire. The head and brain injury should be treated with the utmost urgency. I'm right there with you. Look, we all saw what CTE has done to a lot of NFL players. We know suicide's been an issue. We know one of them, homicide was an issue. So yeah, when you got those types of injuries, to your advantage point, Rob Scott, I think it is of absolute urgency, not only for your life, but for those around you, because as we've seen before, it kind of does give you erratic behavior or irrational behavior. So, yeah, I think Tua needs to undergo a lot of studying. I mean, they need to do a whole. I know they got a protocol, but you need to have a protocol for the protocol when it comes to Tua. I'm not going back on that field until I get at least 3, maybe 4 doctors' professional opinions on what life would look like if I go back to football. You know, can I still sustain myself? Am I going to be okay? Or should I bow out now? So I think you get at least 3 or 4 doctors' approvals before you even think about stepping back on that football field. And there should be a battery of tests that they run on you to make sure that you're good to go. Because I definitely agree with you, Rob Scott. That brain is nothing to play around with. But yeah, Dolphins, Bills, again, this is another easy path. I think the Bills will overtake the Dolphins easily. I really do. Because if you don't have two at the helm and you got Skylar freaking Thompson, just say that name, Skylar Thompson. This doesn't even sound good. It sounds terrible. Sounds like something you like. You know what Skylar Thompson is? Let me put it in perspective. If I go to a bar and I say I want a whiskey and Coke, they're going to ask me, do you want rail or premium? And Jay says, I'm going to do premium unless it's close to payday. And if it's close to payday, then I'm going to do rail. It just depends on where I'm at. But I look at Skylar Thompson. Like if I go in there and I ask for a quarterback from the bar, I feel like Skylar Thompson would be the rail and like Josh Allen would be like the premium, right? So that's what I feel like you're getting with Miami. I think your premium Tua is out and there's no more liquor in the bottle. Or maybe the valve at the top is clogged up and you can't unclog it to pour out the premium stuff. So you got to go to your backup, your Skylar Thompson, your rail drink. Nothing ever good came out of a rail drink. You know what came out of a rail drink? A lot of alcoholics. Because that stuff was easier to drink. I'm just saying. And I might even put Skylar Thompson below rail drinks. He might be Robitussin. God, you know, when you get to the Robitussin level, you better be dialing 1-800 to get help. But no, I think the Bills will have an easy route to it. And I think the Bills will get their first real look at, you know, playoff football once they hit the divisional round. Now, who they play in the divisional round, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to, and maybe y'all might know. I want to say it's the winner of the winner of the Chargers and Jags. No, actually, yeah, it's either that or I don't think it's going to be the Ravens and Bills. So I want to say Chargers and Jags. But y'all might know that. Oh, yeah, Chargers coach is okay. Tony Gonzalez says Chargers coach is okay unless they can get Peyton or Harbaugh. But again, if you try to go after a Peyton or Harbaugh and you miss out and they don't join you, then you got to go back to a very disgruntled Staley. God, I would not want to have that conversation. And then we move down into number 4, Giants and Vikings. Holy crap, Giants and Vikings, man. If there was ever a stage set up for an upset, Rob Scott, you know me and you were on the Vikings tip there at the beginning of the season, up and until the point where Dallas went in there, Indianapolis went in there, Detroit went in there, and then we're starting to look at Minnesota as like, they're kind of soft. I don't see them doing much. And that's the problem I think they're going to run into with the Giants. Tony Gonzalez said, go Giants. You know what? I think they do, Tony. I think Barkley gets unleashed. I think Jones has a good throw-in day. The only downside to the Giants is they don't have the big star wide receivers. That's what they don't have. They don't have the big star wide receivers. They don't have the big tight end. So you're left with average wide receivers and a really supercharged running back. And you do have a pretty good defense. I don't want to take anything from Trayvon Thibodeau and that Giants defense. But yeah, do I think the Giants can beat the Vikings? Yeah. And then who becomes number 1 seed? Philadelphia. God, what a time is on my side. No, it ain't. That jack tastes good. And then, of course, we come to Monday's game. Cowboys versus the Buccaneers. Can Tampa Tom? That's what I call Brady now, Tampa Tom. Can Tampa Tom go into that bag of tricks and pull out a win over the Cowboys? Now, you all know that Brady has, let's just be honest, I'm a Cowboys fan, but I know stats, and Brady has owned the Cowboys every time he's played them. I think the Cowboys are like 0-7 or 0-8 versus Brady. But then I look at the Tampa lineup, and I know that they don't have an offensive line per se. Tony Gonzalez goes on to say, Giants just can't let Yeah, they can't let him get off to a hot start. I get that. If Minnesota gets off to a hot start, then yeah, of course it's going to be hard for them. He thinks Dallas will win. Tony does. Mickey Delaney says, "What is up, Robert? Robert, your boy Mickey Delaney is saying, what's up from up there in Seattle." Mickey Delaney, you missed it when I was talking about Seattle. I got Seattle. I'm hoping and praying that they pull off the upset on the 49ers. You never know. Can it be done? Yeah, it can be done. Can they do it? We'll see. God, what would we do, folks? Let me ask you guys a question. What would happen if the Giants beat the Vikings and the Seahawks beat the Niners? Oh, wow. What would that mean for the playoffs? Could you imagine what that would mean for the playoffs? That's got to be crazy. Everybody in their mother's like, holy shit, the Vikings are done. The 49ers are done. All of a sudden, people are starting to get hope now that their chances to get a Super Bowl certainly looks pretty good. I don't think that'll happen, first off. I'm just saying it would be amazing. God, would it be amazing if it did happen? He said, yeah, it'd be a close game, the Dallas and Bucks. He says Dallas sucks in the playoffs. Bucks got this game easily in the bag. Okay. Yeah. We'll just let that comment sit right there for a hot minute. But yeah, I definitely think the Cowboys can get this win. I think it's going to take a dose of Pollard and Zeke in tandem and using good game management. I say give it to Pollard and Ezekiel because right now, as we all know, Dak Prescott, Dak's been a little careless with the football, and he's thrown quite a few picks. So I feel like our best chance of getting past Tampa Tom is just to keep the ball out of his hands. And I think we can do that with good clock management. I feel like if our run game and our offensive line is blocking for the run game, that our run game can get us where we got to go, and we can sprinkle it in with the passes to T.Y., with the passes to C.D., with the passes to Michael, and so forth. So, but in Dalton Schultz, I expect Dalton Schultz to be an X factor in that game as well. So I think if the offensive line around Tom Brady, if the Cowboys and Micah Parsons, you got a big game coming up, buddy. Micah Parsons, you got to be Tom Brady's worst nemesis. Like, you need to be all over him like white on rice paper, baby. Like white on rice paper. I mean, you need to be all over him. And DeMarcus Lawrence, D-Law. You can't let Micah Parsons do all the work. D-Law, we need you to take that big contract that you signed not long ago and take that big contract and show us why you need all that damn money. Armstrong, and the rest of the guys up in the front, defensive tackles and stuff, and defensive ends, y'all need to all pull up. Hey, we need all hands on deck. Secondary, for the love of God, keep your wide receivers covered. Lots of things need to happen, but I've always said if you put pressure on Brady, you can beat Brady. The problem is nobody's ever had enough pressure on him. That's right. It is. Hey, Mickey, it is a good time to be alive. What a time. What a time. All right, folks, let's move on to the next subject matter at hand real quick. Top 5 quarterbacks with the most pressure to win a Super Bowl. Who's your top 5 quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl or under the most pressure to win a Super Bowl? I got my top 5, and this is how I see my top 5 going down or went down. In terms of pressure to win a Super Bowl, I got Dak Prescott at number 1. And I got Dak there because the Cowboys have been in there forever. And I feel like Dak has had plenty of opportunities to win a Super Bowl and has it and has had the talent around him to win a Super Bowl. And they just haven't got it done. So I got Dak Prescott with the most pressure at number 1. At number 2, I put Josh Allen just because of all the hype that Josh had had around him at the beginning of the season. And there was a lot of people saying, oh, this is the Bills' Super Bowl to lose. Bills this and Bills that. Everybody had the Bills as the number 1 team, bar none. And so I feel like he's got a lot to live up to, Josh Allen does, especially after coming 13 seconds away from getting into the Super Bowl last year. Yeah. Or making it into, not the Super Bowl, but making it into the AFC Conference Showdown. Yeah. So Dak Prescott, Josh Allen. At number 3, I got Lamar. Well, I got to scratch Lamar Jackson because he's not in it this year. So I'm going to take Lamar Jackson out of there. Jalen Hurts. I feel like Jalen, a lot of people putting pressure on Jalen Hurts to pull off a win, especially with this lineup that this Eagles team has. So I see Jalen Hurts has a little bit of pressure built up. Patrick Mahomes. Look, Pat, you can only ride that one Super Bowl for so long. We're going to need a little bit more from you than that one Super Bowl that you won. So I still think Pat Mahomes has a lot riding on his shoulders. And then if I had to put a replacement in there for Lamar Jackson, who would I go with, man? I'd like to go with Justin Herbert. I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. And I'm going to go with Justin because I feel like he has all the pieces around him, right? He's got the running back. He's got the wide receivers. They have a good defensive line. So I'm gonna put Justin Herbert, and really this could be a tie. Justin Herbert does, but I think also Kirk Cousins. I think we got to put Kirk Cousins as one of the most pressured quarterbacks to win a title because this Minnesota team, they got weapons too. They got a lot of good weapons. They just brought in Hawkinson to complement the wide receivers of Thielen and Jefferson. And then you got Dalvin Cook as your running back. I mean, yeah, I think he's got a lot of pressure too. So I'm going to go with, and again, Josh Allen, Prescott, Herbert / Cousins. I'm going to go with those two as a tie. And then Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. Those are my top 5 quarterbacks that have the most pressure on them to come away with the Super Bowl. God, what a time. Yeah, Dak sucks in the playoffs. Yeah, I get it, man. And that's another reason why I feel like he has so much pressure on him is because he has sucked in the playoffs. Because the Cowboys have sucked in the playoffs. The only one that probably has more pressure on him than Dak would probably be Mike McCarthy as the damn head coach. You got to imagine that Jerry is turning up the pressure on McCarthy to come home away with the trophy. I don't care what anybody says. So Tony puts in Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Mahomes, Cousins, Hurts. So we had all the same guys in there. I think the only thing I did was I added Herbert into that mix, and I had him as a tie with Cousins. But yeah, Tony, me and you are on the same. We're on the same page, man. Honestly, matter of fact, I almost think it's the same. Yep, I had Allen, I had Prescott, Hurts, and then Mahomes, and you had Mahomes before Hurts. So we were almost on the same wavelength, man. Crazy as that, man. Damn. Okay, but yeah, top 5 quarterbacks. Those are my top 5. I'd be curious to know what your top 5 quarterbacks are that are most pressured to win a Super Bowl. And then we come up to Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady, 2022. And what I mean by that is we're only looking at the season, just this season alone, right? Who had the better game overall? Was it Brady or was it Aaron Rodgers? And this is how I rated it. So number 1, Brady's still in the playoffs. You got to give him that. He's still in the playoffs. And also, Rodgers has thrown for 3,695 yards, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Gives him a ranking of 91.1. By the way, that was Aaron Rodgers' worst statistical season. This is his worst statistical season is this year. At number 2, then we got we got Brady. Tom Brady put up 4,694 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions with a 90.7 QBR. And by the way, both teams did finish at 8 and 9. So do with that information as you will. I think Brady's on the better end of that. I mean, when you're putting up damn near 5,000 yards and you only have 9 interceptions, I mean, what does that say for Tom at 45 freaking years old? Man, what a time. Man. What a time. Seriously, I mean, what a time to be alive. I mean, I definitely, and I think you could look at every possible statistical category. You could look at this season. You could look at the entire career. I mean, whatever facet of their legacy you want to look at, Brady is the GOAT. And you can see what the GOAT looks like against another good quarterback or great quarterback. We'll put great now. Let's put great. If you look at a great quarterback versus a GOAT, that's what it looks like. God, what a time to be alive, man. What a time to be alive. All right. Last topic of the evening, folks. Last topic is the Houston Cougars. Are the Cougars a for real number one in men's basketball? Let's see. The last time Houston had a number one team, it was this year. This is the second time that Houston had the number one spot earlier this year, and then they got the number one seed back again. So this is the second time they've gotten it this year. But the last time that Houston in a season they held number one was in the 1980s. I want to say mid-80s when Akeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, Michael Malone, and a few other guys were part of that five-slamma jamma team that lost to the Tar Heels and Michael Jordan in that tournament. So, yeah, Tony goes on to say Tom Brady had trouble in the red zone this year. He has, yeah. You know why, though? Because he didn't have Gronkowski. If you look at Tom Brady, who was Tom Brady's biggest red zone target? It was Gronkowski. And when you don't have your biggest security blanket there, it takes a lot from somebody. That's why I was worried about him coming back and playing this year without Gronkowski, is because he doesn't have that big security blanket there for him anymore. And I think that kind of shows just how, a lot of people will say, well, Bill Belichick made Tom, and Tom made Bill Belichick. Well, where the hell does Gronkowski rank in there? Because I think Gronkowski made them both. I'm going to say, without Gronkowski, I don't know that Tom Brady does as good as Tom Brady has. Sit on that, marinate it, let it do what you think. Do you think Houston can win it all this year? Yeah. Do I think they have the team to do it? I do. Again, they're 16-1 right now. When I look at their team, I think it's what if you look at the rankings, you got Houston at 1, Kansas at 2, Purdue at 3, Alabama at 4, Tennessee at 5, UConn at 6, UCLA at 7, 8 is Gonzaga, 9 is Arizona, and then Texas rounds out the top 10. And can I just say one thing real quick, man? It's hard to believe that Texas has fallen down as much as they have. But that head coach, when Beard was fired, when the head coach Beard was fired, that really hurt that Texas team a lot. And to a point where they slid down quite a few spots. So, it's not over for Texas. Texas is still they're in the top 10. I guarantee you Texas will make the March Madness. But they're going to have to come under one roof and figure out who are the Texas Longhorns and how do they move on from Beard and then continue to be successful. But that's for another day. When it comes to the Houston Cougars, I do think they can win it all. I do think the Houston Cougars will, at the very least, I believe Houston Cougars will be in the Final Four. That's at the very least. I think they're in the Final Four. Now, whether or not they get to the title game or win the title game, that's another issue. But I do, at the very least, I do think they make the Final Four. Tony says, I think Houston's style is built for the tournament. Yeah, it is. I do believe that. I think Marcus, and I hope I don't mess up his name, Marcus Satter. And I'm going to say his name wrong. Sasser. I know I was going to say his name wrong. Marcus Sasser. I think the point guard for that team really is, I think, the catalyst. You also have both Walker and Robertson, I believe it's Roberts, that play the forward positions that score a lot of points, get a lot of rebounds. But yeah, I do think this team is built for the long haul. I do think that they're built for this tournament. And I do think it's a large part of it is going to be Sasser facilitating the ball and getting everybody involved on the same level. But yeah, man, let's get into some final thoughts, and then we all going to go relax and get ready for Saturday's football. So my final thoughts are simple, man. Number one, the Astros going to have their work cut out for them this year. I will say that. The league has really improved enough. I think that's really going to get the Astros fits. I think on the National League side of the Mets, Padres, and Phillies, and then you could probably throw in maybe even St. Louis. they got some good National League teams over there. Brewers, the Brewers are still going to be the Brewers. Dodgers, I don't think the Dodgers are really going to be that much of a threat. I think they've lost too much to really be a threat. At this point, I think on the AL side of life, I think Astros, obviously, Yankees, obviously. And then from there, Seattle, I think, is going to be an issue this year. Texas will be an issue from a defensive standpoint, but not necessarily an offensive standpoint. And for that reason, I got Texas still hovering around third place, fourth place, somewhere in that area. I think the A's will probably pull up last place. And then I think Seattle comes in second, and I still got Houston on top. If you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And Houston Astros are the best. Outside of that, go Cowboys. Please don't embarrass us. Please get a win Monday so at least we can hang our hat on Tom Brady's TB12 send-off. Hopefully he goes over to Oakland or something like that. But yeah, man, that's really about it. I do want to say, again, much love out to the Peyton Hillis family. As you know, Peyton Hillis was the one that went in there and rescued his family members and also was put into ICU. So I want to shout out continuous thoughts and prayers for the Hillis family. And also my thoughts and prayers are still with Damar Hamlin as he continues his recovery. It's just an amazing, 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 amazing life when a man can come that close to death and then another man, could come in and save his life with God's help. God is going to be there too. So God, through the instrument of another man, saves this man's life. And everybody's going to see tomorrow and everybody's going to see another day. And I'm telling you, man, that's a beautiful thing. My thoughts and prayers, again, like I said, with the Hamlin family. I know no matter what he does, whether he goes back to football or he goes to the next venture of whatever that venture may be for his life, he will have success. He's a very successful man, and that family has got a great support system around them. And again, lay off T. Higgins. There's a lot of threats and stuff I've seen on ESPN and different other tweets and other outlets where I've seen people are threatening T. Higgins and with violence and things like that because of that hit. Y'all need to leave T. Higgins alone. That man had nothing to do with that. Just leave that man alone. But, hey, we will be back Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Follow us on TikTok at Unscripted Sports, all one word. And you can follow us on Twitter at Unscripted Guys, all one word. Y'all be good. And until next time, it's your boy, Jay, saying